Yo, what is going on, people? It is Nick and Femi here for another episode of the greatest podcast on planet Earth, or whatever. You know what it is. It's your boy Femi here. What's going on?
Yes, sir. What's going on, people? It is your boy Nick. It's just crazy having the world's greatest podcast, bro. Like sometimes I just had a moment to deepen. I'm like, like what responsibility? Having the
What
world's greatest
responsibility, bro?
podcast.
That's it, bro. It's like people always ask me, "Yo, how did you get to the level of having the greatest podcast?" Like, bro, just hard work, dedication. Yeah, just getting the shit done, baby. You know the vibes. Come on, that's how it is.
I know. Like I feel this like enormous amount of pressure every single time. I'm like, man, like I gotta really deliver, but then I just wing it.
I just do.
And I just wing it, and then I'm still number one.
It's silly,
it's
bro.
wild. That was so silly.
Look, to be honest, guys, with you, we want these Zoom ones to be really, really quick, so we won't do too much of this joking shit that Nick loves to do. You know me, I'm the serious one. That's always just trying to get straight down to work. So, basically... What?
You're one of the dumbest guys I've ever met in my life, bro. Whoa. I just want to get straight to work.
Nah, but look, I want this to be very, very short and punchy for you guys. And also, we've done a couple of takes, and I want to go eat. So that's also a factor in this episode.
Nah, no cap.
No cap. No, but
let's get straight into it.
Where we at? What are we doing?
So what I really want to talk to you guys about is about breaking out of your false perception, breaking out of living in your head so much that it blocks out everything that's happening in the world. You feel what I'm saying?
100%. So what's your kind of like steps for this? How do you suggest it happens?
Yeah. Well, I think the first thing is that I want to really get super clear as to what it is that I'm talking about and see if you can kind of relate and resonate with it. So what it is that I'm talking about is that I'm talking about, you remember there's times in people's life when I know for myself personally, I went through this, where I had a certain thought in my head. Let's say, for example, it could be, as part of business, I knew that in order for me to grow my business, I needed to go out and present. I need to do a presentation. I need to start running retreats and seminars. But in my head, I'm like, no one's going to come to these seminars. I don't know what I'm talking about. Out of all these things, this just doesn't exist. People are gonna say, "Oh, you're too short to be running a seminar." All this kind of bullshit you start feeding it. Yeah, obviously I'm not short.
No, but like I feel like that last one is very, very valid for you, bro. Like I feel like some things are perception, some things is being honest with yourself, and I think that people need to understand the difference. Nicholas. You're 5-0, bro. Like those people gonna. But anyway, look, it's okay. It's okay. If you are short, there's other things that you can be good at. Like, I don't know. Like Woolies has people that stock the bottom shelf. Like you could do that, Nick. You could do that.
Let's ignore the bull crap, bro, because that's such like the shortest guy in the world is talking to me. So, anyways, but
6 foot is short. All right.
Oh my gosh, all right, bro. You continue to mislead the audience, but you know what I mean? Like all these things that we feed ourselves, and we feed our mind, we start to believe it, and when we start to believe it, it really becomes a reality. And it limits you from doing all these things. It limits you for applying for that job. It limits you to approaching that girl. And it limits you for chasing all those things and stuff that you want to chase because we're too stuck in our head. And it's really important that as a first step, that we're aware of that we're aware that at the end of the day, in this world that we're living in, all we got really is our perception. Doesn't mean that it's fact, doesn't mean it's the reality, but it's just how we view it. And it doesn't mean that perception can't change. I think that's a very, very important thing to know at the start.
100%. Like we have the opportunity in our life to be able to kind of like change the course of our life based on the way that we kind of like see the world. Because obviously our behavior is based on our perception. If we honestly, but like when we drive a car, our perception is that we have the capability to be able to get to our destination. So the way that we operate and we drive is with that confidence and with that self-assurance. And that's because of our perception. We've been told that driving a car is easy. You've learned it, so now that it's easy. But there's people that have been in major car accidents that do not have that perception at all anymore. So that means that it's not the actual difficulty of driving a car, it's the mental perception of it. The fear. What's going to happen? The fear of the unknown. Like past traumas. So it's like, that's why it's so important. It's like the only time that you're able to like break through and step out of your fear zones is when you actually change those perceptions and those associations.
Exactly right. And let's be real, like obviously changing those perceptions first time isn't going to be, it's not an easy task. It's not a matter of just being like, it's not a matter of just going, dang, let me switch it. It's just a process where we have to work into it incrementally, right? And I think that having a good support network firstly is really important when you're trying to break perceptions. And what you tell yourself and what you feed yourself every single day is one of the big things that you need to be doing to shift that perception. So little steps, like for example, the example that Femi spoke about with you, like you got this perception of being in a car. A very simple step and a very minor step is like if you reflect back to when you got your L's and you started driving, you probably started driving in a quiet place, maybe like a car park with no cars. You take that little step to be like, you know what, it's okay. It's not as bad as I initially thought. That's the first thing. And then you build your confidence. Step by step, step by step, step by step. It's that same kind of process, but you got to apply it in different areas. If it's a job or if it's something that you know you want to do, you want to speak on stage. It's like, okay, what's a simple step? Maybe start a podcast where I'm not on stage, but I'm getting comfortable speaking. And then maybe you might change that from a group hangout of about 10 people, and then 20 people, and then 30 people. And then eventually that perception starts to get away. It's like, you know what? I was just living in my head. I can actually do this. And it's those
100%.
small, simple things that you do that are going to allow it to really shift that change and allow it to break out what's in your head and really get clear on what's actually happening in the world. And I think that, you know, if we get clear that it's an incremental game and we don't try to go big picture straight away, then that's when you're going to be able to break through. That's when you're going to be able to make those changes.
Yeah, man. It's all about mental fitness. So it's everyday things. Like every single day that you got to wake up, and you have to be conscious and intentional about trying to elevate and get better. Just like, you know, people use this analogy all the time at the gym. You know what I mean? You go to the gym, you don't go to the gym and put on all the weight in the gym and expect to lift it that day. You have to work your way up, and you need to get to that point, because if you just come out of a car crash, no one's going to tell you the next day, drive to Bathurst if you live in Melbourne or something like that. You know what I mean? Like, no one's going to tell you to start driving for 12 hours. So it's kind of like, give yourself that grace to be able to take small steps every single day. Take small steps.
Exactly right. So to everyone that's listening right now, I want you guys to be really like honest with yourself and just ask yourself is like, is there something that you know that you want to do, but all these thoughts that are in your head at the moment are blocking you and restricting you from actually going out there and doing that? And if it is, I think everyone's got a little bit of a little element of that that's apparent in their life. Think about what's a small step that I can do this week. You guys have been listening to this podcast on Monday at the beginning of the week. So what's something that you can do this week to overcome that and break through that? And if you set your intention every single week to take massive action, or not even massive action, but take some action towards addressing it, then I promise you guys, like, you will make the shift. You will make the change. And you'll start seeing that the world that we live in isn't all about what's in our mind. Like, we're just restricting it. And it's like what Femi's saying, bro. It's like constant work, day in, day out.
Exactly. And giving yourself the grace and permission to stuff up over and over and over and over and over and over and over again. That's how you make the change. That's the only way.
Yep. Yes, sir. So, like I said, it's kind of what I wanted to cover today. Very short and sweet. But the key to it is there needs to be tangible. There needs to be something that you guys can implement in action. So the first thing that you guys need to do is ask yourself that question. And then you need to think about what's a small step that you can take this week to be able to overcome it and really work through it. And be patient with it. It's going to take a while.
100%.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Well, look, that was another one, another big banger. Another one is going to take us straight to the top, straight to number one. It's crazy, but that's the life that we live. That's the life that we live.
That's the life that we live, baby.
Yes,
now, guys, thanks for tuning in for another episode. We hope that these are making impacts in your life. We are working our best. We can't wait for I was gonna say we're trying our best, but I'm like, well, not much that we can do really. Actually, I was gonna say we're trying our best to get back into the cold recording things with other people. Then I realized, not up to us, is it? So I guess as soon as we have that option, we'll be back to giving some hectic visuals and having a bit more robust conversations. But we're trying our best over Zoom. Thanks for tuning in, and we shall see you on Thursday.
Yep. Yes, sir.